No, 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 no. Ah, great. Now my phone screen is cracked. There's only one person in the world I know who could fix this for me.
Ting, ting, walla, bing, bang.
Hello everyone! Welcome to this very long in the making episode of Rogue Robot Reviews. That's right, you read the title correctly. After all this time, after all this waiting, after all the comments from you guys, grabbing hold of my ankles, pleading, nay, begging for me to cover this specific character, we are finally doing it. We're talking about FIXIT, the repair bot from WALL-E. I wasn't exaggerating about what I said, by the way. I've received more requests to make a video about FIXIT than I have for, I think, any other character in this series.
Fix it, fix it, fix it, fix it, fix it, fix it! Fix it, fix it, fix it!
But why is that? Why is FIXIT, this random background character from this Pixar piece of media, who doesn't appear to have all that much that's special going on with them, so popular? Why do people so vehemently and consistently demand for me to talk about him? Well, let's find out together. FIXIT, as his name perhaps, hints at a little bit, is a repair bot. A member of the maintenance class of robots, an entire regiment of them was built and deployed by Large to perform unsurpassed shipboard service to the Axiom. You know, going around and doing the day-to-day tasks, restoring equipment to working order. If you've got a broken hover chair, this guy's got it covered. Got yourself a leaky pipe there? Leave it to him. They're a major part of the blood flow that keeps the Axiom alive. From mending electronics to replacing parts of the ship, these fellas are always dependable and trustworthy. Until they aren't. We'll get to that later. Firstly, I want to bring light to his name, as it's not a pun or an acronym, it's just a simple phrase, which is a nice change of pace. They could have just called him Fixer or Fixie or something, and no one would have batted an eye over it. But no, they put a little bit more effort into it. It's funny, isn't it, how there's at least 2 Disney-owned characters who have the phrase FIXIT as part of their name.
I can fix it!
And now, I think it's about time we dive into the design of this lad. FIXIT has a long white body with 2 arms situated underneath his head, as is the case with many of B&L robots. It's a lot of the time their simple design philosophy. He sports some nice orange stripes that go up his face, and shining through his wide flat vision screen at the bottom of his face are a pair of cunning orange pupils, making him the last robot for us to cover who has a unique eye color. Besides, of course, yours truly. Just look at this handsome fellow right here. What the hell, am I flirting with Mo? What am I doing? Though it is worth noting that his model originally had them as blue, as seen in the trailer for WALL-E. Plus, there is a rare variant of him that still retains those blue eyes. Obviously, I prefer the orange, as I'll take any eye color that helps him to stand out over just another pair of blue. On either side of his head are these tiny black rivets, near the back are these gray vent pieces, and on his right side are both his barcode and his number, 3782, which, as I've shown before, is a number that's also used by the, coincidentally, also orange Clawbot. Again, kinda annoying that these animators couldn't be bothered to just modify a number. Is that so difficult? Isn't that the main thing that helps to distinguish each one and give it its own identity? But hey, at the very least, this guy actually has an official and accurate name that you can refer to them by, besides just their model number. Ooh, hey, bada bing!
Boom. Roasted.
Protruding from underneath his head is this white cylindrical piece with a gray bottom. I really can't tell you what its purpose is. Perhaps it's used for transporting some little repair equipment that he uses, or for some kind of fuel he runs on. I don't know, I always forget that it's even there. He has a gray B&L logo on his back, and attached to his rear end is this little gray tank with orange metal wrapping around it, and dark gray caps on each end. Pretty sure that this is actually used for storing some type of fuel he runs on. And that leads us to his arms, which are given articulation through a traditional series of blocky shoulders, extensions, hydraulics, hinged joints, and sliding panels atop his forearms. Underneath his arms are these little white vent panel things, and on each end are, of course, his necessary little orange gripper claws, which come in handy when performing whatever maintenance he's assigned to. And that just about sums up every last speck of his body. My only issue with FIXIT's design is that nothing about it really indicates that he's a fixer-upper. We instead have to be told that he's a repair bot, unlike several other characters where you can tell instantly what their job is simply by looking at them, such as Bernie, who is very clearly a welding bot. There's no, wrench emblem on the side of their head to signify it, nor are they given any accessories that correspond with it. Heck, in case you never noticed somehow, we're never actually shown any of this model actually fixing anything on screen. If it weren't for their character descriptions outside the film, we'd basically have no idea they were meant to be a repair bot.
Yeah, but first world problems, you know.
Oh, I know I'm going to get into a lot of hot water for saying this, but what if our wonderful repair bot wasn't actually a repair bot at all? Or at least it wasn't always the plan for them to be like that. Blasphemy, I know, it sounds absurd, I get it. But I'm not suggesting this just to be a contrarian or to get people mad. And I'm not even saying that it's implausible for him to be a repair bot, not at all. But just simply by looking at the evidence at face value, I'm surprisingly doubtful. And that's not even mentioning that he's occasionally seen carrying trays in the movie, which are most often used for serving drinks to the passengers, though to be fair, they could be used for many different purposes. All these reasons combined lead me to believe that this is a situation where some Pixar intern or marketing supervisor or whoever had to be put in charge of making the robot files of the characters, but they didn't have anyone selected for the role of the repair bot, so they scrambled and randomly handpicked this unit for the job.
Honey, did you remember to pick out a robot for the repair bot role for the Wall-E bonus features?
Yeah! I remembered!
And it's for that reason that I find FIXIT just a tad underwhelming. Their whole claim to fame is being something that's never really taken advantage of. And again, I don't say that to be mean or anything. What good would this series be if I didn't offer slight criticisms or challenge the status quo, thinking outside the box? However, just because we see them carrying trays, that doesn't mean that they couldn't still be a repair bot. A robot's job doesn't have to be mutually exclusive. He could have been made for repairing equipment, but also could have been repurposed for handling food. Heck, even his arms, which look very similar to those of Grabby's, could have been useful for handling cargo too. This robot is basically whatever the Axiom needs it to be. A utility bot like him can have many different purposes. If you want an outside comparison of what I'm talking about, you could take a knife for example. A knife is useful for chopping up food, but it can also be used as a defense weapon. And if you want an even more strange comparison, take the Spinosaurid dinosaur Baryonyx for example, because I'm sure you all know what that is, obviously. That creature was specifically adapted to hunting aquatic prey like fish. It's what they're most well known for. But despite being primarily piscivorous, it wouldn't pass up a terrestrial free meal like a dead iguanodon for instance. And that's basically the same case here with FIXIT's job. Regardless whether they do or do not suffer from an identity crisis, I'm just happy they even bothered to do something unique with them to begin with. Plus, the design is appealing either way. It is simple, but I still think it's great. Now, many FIXIT units are seen traveling down the hallways of the Axiom, heading to wherever their next duties are located, one of which unfortunately gets squished in the middle of this robot jam caused by our boy Wall-E here. Another goes up a ramp right before Wall-E encounters the humans. Some of them are seen roaming around the Lido deck, which is interesting. and a few of them are present on Earth at the end of the film within the crowds of humans. But all this leaves us with one question: who repairs the repair bots? Well, that's where our reject friend comes into play. The rogue FIXIT has a red boot attached to the left side of their head, and as you could see, as soon as you'd enter the repair ward, they're stuck lying on the ground on their side, endlessly spiraling around and flailing their arms. He looks as if he were either having a seizure,
Please bring Amberland.
or more humorously, breakdancing like a rock star. Fun fact, I actually imitated this exact type of move once in 5th grade, on the floor during gym class just for the funsies, resulting in the teacher asking me to stop. I don't know, I just thought I'd share that with you. Anyways, his placement out in the hallway near section 4B makes him an outlier, along with Purdy, Light, and this little fella, as he's not being kept where he's supposed to be in one of the containment pens with the other rejects. That's not to say he was never imprisoned like the rest, he may have been at some point. We only happened to come across him on the floor during this scene. It's not as if one of the Carsticks just picked him up when he arrived and then dropped him on the ground like that to fend for himself. No. My headcanon is that not long after he arrived, he started malfunctioning so hard that he toppled out of his enclosure and landed on the floor, and he's been there ever since.
I've fallen, and I can't go back!
As for his appearances in the ward, you can see him in the background as Wally is being put in place, you can spot him from Wally's POV, and ever so slightly when Eve's blaster gets shot. Hey, now you can properly tell that it's meant to be him. Oh, and speaking of which, back in my early days, when I was young and green, I had mistaken him in this POV shot here as a completely different character, not realizing these two were meant to be the same individual, thinking that this arm here was meant to be his head. And this occurred a second time later, because after Wally destroys the repair ward security systems, he is seen on his side looking towards Wally through the shattered glass, before making a dash for it out the entrance. Here you can tell he is now upside down, kind of like 5444. I guess FIXIT saw what she was up to and wanted to know what the hype was about. Point is, I had again mistaken him here for another character, that being this big guy specifically, named 5730, who is obviously not a rogue robot, but has a similar color scheme to FIXIT. Long story short, I never knew as a kid where this guy was being kept in the repair ward due to several misunderstandings, caused by the color difference from Wally's vision, and by me not bothering to think of just flipping this shot the other way around.
You may not recognize me at first, but I assure you, it's still me.
I just find it funny though, how we got to see this guy in so many different positions.
That's what she said.
Out on the loose, now flying on top of the crowd of rejects, he is seen next to his master Wally, wanting to serve him like what the defib look-alike is doing. How exactly he turned right side up like normal? I don't know, maybe one of the others helped him back up. After being stopped by the security bots, we see his arm clipping through Helmet's head as he sits there anxiously with his arms up, next to Defib and several others. Blah blah blah, here he is in the profile shot. Blah blah, we see him surprised by Eve suddenly arriving. Blah 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 blah, he then gets his caution picture taken. Hey ho, ho hum, we all know how these things go by now, there's not much to really say here. He then makes a run for it after Wally and Eve fly off, before anticlimactically leaving the scene by turning to his left. And just like that, he's out of the picture. Just like all the rest, he leaves faster than he arrived. The reject FIXIT is somebody who I feel like I unfortunately tend to gloss over. Not because he's forgettable or uninteresting or something, but rather it's because he's not kept within a intended section of the ward amongst a specific group of fellow robots, whereas it's easy to associate him with other characters, therefore making him more memorable. And due to his limited and sometimes confusing screen time there, he sometimes manages to slip from my subconscious. It's a shame though, because he's an overall funny and likable addition to the cast. Any observant and keen-eyed viewers might catch a glimpse of this guy during his scenes and then have a little chuckle. That's nice. However, this wasn't the very last of FIXIT. Again, as I've addressed in a previous video, a deleted scene for the movie known as Dumped features Eve looking upon a group of the rogue robots swarming through a hallway, which, in case you don't remember, includes the DFib lookalike, and of course, FIXIT. Okay, but what is with all the similarities between these two, am I right? Servitude, number duplication, cut content. What's going on there? Wait, what was I talking about again? Oh, right. I cannot even begin to explain just how overjoyed and ecstatic I was when I discovered this deleted scene back in 2020 or so. I just assumed for years that we would never get to see any more of the non-main reject bots in the flesh again, after they had vanished from the movie in that runaway scene. But thankfully, I was proven wrong here.
You're as beautiful as the day I lost you.
Heck, back then, I even made a little video about this subject. Don't watch it though, my old content from that era is painful. Anyways, while it is ultimately a good thing that this scene was cut from the film, for completely unrelated reasons, mind you, mostly in favor of what we actually got, but it really would have been nice to see FIXIT again just one final time. Maybe they could have reworked this sequence to include the moment with the robots, whilst chopping out the rejection stuff right before we transition to the next scene. In an alternate universe, we could have spent more time with our beloved FIXIT by like a single second. And who knows, maybe he could have ended up as a main rogue robot like DFib, Van Gogh, and the others. And this wasn't the only time this type of thing happened either. In the Man and the Machine video, we see him present during the animatic shot of the group of rejects chasing after Wall-E, which he isn't in for the final movie. Now isn't that neat? Via his robot file, we learn of his occupation being that of a repairman. Again, I still think that this is just a case of them taking a random character model, labeling it as a repair bot, and running with it because nothing overtly says otherwise. I'm not trying to rewrite the truth or anything, but it just further adds to why I sometimes take what the robot files say with a pinch of salt. That said, we're also given this line from the narrator.
Status update. This unit is currently undergoing repairs. Please see a steward for your repair needs.
Now, clearly this was just meant to be some tongue-in-cheek humor with the repair bot needing repairs. Har har har.
The use of words expressing something other than their literal intention. Now that is irony.
But it actually passes the vibe check, as this passing mention indirectly references the rogue robot. That's cool. He also has multiple bios in Pixar character encyclopedias, one of which was mistakenly given an image of Power to go along with it. He makes a cameo in the BNL Bots video. You can see one of them in the background of Bernie in a couple of shots. His full body image was used in the RoboKit video. And then there's his concept art, where he has arms that didn't just stop with claws, but with an extra set of incredibly minuscule, fragile-looking joints. It's like each arm leads to another arm. He's got arms within his arms.
Guns, and just guns coming out of guns.
He also adorns a code on his side that says TWOK82, and a pair of blue stripes. I'm very grateful he was eventually given his recognizable bright orange stripes instead, because again, it's not as if we don't already have enough blues. This wasn't the only time we'd see FIXIT in this color either, as here he is doing his thing in this previs shot. And finally, a gray blocky version of his model appears in this Crossy Road-like segment of the Wall-E video game, where you have to cross a gap by running on top of a bunch of his model. Although it could be based off of Grabby's design instead, it's difficult to tell. And as you would expect for such a well-developed, fan-favorite robot, he has had a multitude of fan art made for him, including these many depictions of him by Wild Art, one of which is blue and carries a tray around. FIXIT is an interesting case. My only issue with him was just simply the fact that we're only ever told what he does instead of being shown, meaning we're left at the mercy of these descriptions to better understand him. Because once you strip away that defining title, you're left with a pretty stock standard robot without many distinguishable characteristics. There doesn't seem to be much else to him beyond that supposed occupation. He's as regular as they come. However, I think that's kind of the point. His normalcy is probably what makes him so popular. He feels kind of like a little underdog in a way, and his job encourages you to use your imagination for him. Despite me thinking he might be a little overhyped by the fanbase, FIXIT is a robot that's pretty hard to dislike. From his solid design, to his helpless moments, to the knowledge that we could have spent more time with our rogue boy himself, which is kind of unprecedented, FIXIT really does have some underlying meat to them, beyond that empty promise of a job. And even then, I still love visualizing scenes in my head of FIXIT reconnecting wiring, reinstalling panels, etc. I just really like FIXIT, and I can see why now, why y'all have been requesting for me to do him for so long. I do get why he is the super fan favorite that he is. Just, be sure to give some attention to some other deserving robots. I feel honored to bring you all my take on FIXIT, and whether he is or isn't really a repair bot, he is a wonderful addition to the Rogue Robot roster. And thank you so much for all of your guys' loyalty to this series, waiting for this guy to finally get his due. I felt that after we covered the stubborn goody two-shoes character that was the defib lookalike in the last episode, I needed to bring you someone more exciting, and I hope I could deliver on just that. And I'm also sorry that this video was so long, but hey, maybe that's a good thing. But just because FIXIT is done, that doesn't mean we are done here. There are still lots more robots for us to cover, and I hope that you will continue to join me for this journey ahead. See you all in the next episode.